So we then weigh those costs. How much do I need the information versus how much do I want to really look like I know what I'm doing and like I know what I'm talking about, in which case we might rely on more indirect methods of information seeking, which would include things like observing for specific behaviors. So you might try to, watch surreptitiously while somebody else works the copy machine, or watch really carefully as somebody makes a latte and figure out, what order you have to put everything in the cup to get it to turn out just right, which can work, right? But we are then left to interpret that information as well. So if we interpret it incorrectly, then that may not be the best approach. So for simple tasks like working the copy machine or how to make a latte, that is probably going to be a pretty good strategy of just observing. But if it's something more complex, maybe where there's a lot of different processes at work, or it has to do with interactions with other people, maybe observation isn't going to be the best method, because the information, we may not interpret it correctly, we may not get a full dose of information that we need, and so then we're still left uncertain, or not having a full complete picture of what's going on. We also tend to rely on disguising conversations. Will disguise information seeking attempts as part of regular conversation. It can be particularly awkward to, just go up to your new coworkers and say like, hey, where'd you go to school? Where'd you work before? What do you like to do on the weekends? What kind of sports do you like? Do you have kids? Do you have pets? Like, we don't bombard people with questions like that because it would be awkward. But at the same time, we want to know things about them. We want to get to know our coworkers, and we want to know what kinds of topics, to talk to them about. So we can figure out how to disguise information-seeking attempts and rely on the rule of reciprocity. So if I share information with you, you're probably going to share information back with me, and that's a good way for me to learn things about you that I don't necessarily directly have to ask for. As a new person, we can sometimes test the limits a little bit too. So we're able to push the boundaries by saying like, well, I know I'm supposed to be at work at 8 o'clock, but maybe I show up at 8:15, see if anybody says anything. And if they don't, then I might come in at 8:15, 8:30. And if you get reprimanded for that, you can always claim like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm new. I wasn't sure if we really had to be here by 8, or it seemed like people were coming in at 8:15 or 8:30. And newcomers will often do this to sort of see like what are the norms, and what is the difference between the stated norms and what actually occurs in the organization, which is kind of interesting. And when we're thinking about socialization processes and this process of new people joining the organization, what's really important to remember too is that not just the new person is affected when somebody new comes in. And I actually study this topic from the perspective of the established members of the organization, what I call the veteran employees, people who have been around a long time and already gone through that metamorphosis phase of socialization where they're sort of considered fully functioning members of the organization. Like, they've learned the ropes, they know what's going on. When a new person comes in, they disrupt things a little bit. They disrupt the normal patterns of interaction. Often the veteran employees have to train the newcomers, so you may have your regular workday interrupted because you're showing this new person around. They might be shadowing you. You're teaching them how to do things, so your own productivity can often be hindered, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is a disruption, so it does create uncertainty for you as an established member of the organization. And we typically are, uncertain about similar types of things that the new person is uncertain about. Sometimes we're not exactly sure why they're there or what tasks they're supposed to be doing. We're definitely not sure about their ability to do those tasks or their motivation level. When a new person comes in, we're always going to hope that they're really a go-getter, they're a hard worker, they really want to learn fast and succeed and do well, and it's going to be somebody that I can rely on and be, a really great member of this organization. But that may not be the case, so it takes a while to fill that out. We observe how they work, we evaluate their work, and try to, gauge what kind of an employee they're going to be, as well as how they're fitting into the social network within the organization. If you get somebody that comes in, especially if the existing group of coworkers is really tight, they get along really well, they work together really well, that new person, might just blend in with that really great and everything is awesome. But sometimes that person can create conflict. It can be awkward. They're not in on the inside jokes. They're not familiar with the patterns of interaction, so that can be difficult to integrate them into the group as well. So what's really important to remember is that when we're talking about socialization processes, it's very much an ongoing kind of process. Uncertainty is something that just kind of fluctuates and changes over time. It's going to increase and decrease depending on who's coming in, how much turnover there is. The greater the amount of turnover, generally the higher the levels of uncertainty are going to be in the organization. The more stable the group of employees, generally the less uncertainty, at least about those kinds of interactions, are going to be. So effective orientation then for the new person really needs to be an ongoing process. We don't want to bombard the new person with too much information right at the beginning, because it's information overload. You can't handle everything, you can't remember everything all at once. And then remembering too that the established members of the organization are also experiencing uncertainty. So trying to contribute to information sharing and information seeking processes as much as possible is going to help everybody feel more comfortable about their position in the organization and exactly what's going on. And just remembering too that when new people come in, it does affect the culture of the organization. So sometimes newcomers just kind of like assimilate right in and become a part of the existing culture. Nothing really changes all that much. But sometimes new people come in and they have different ideas, they have different approaches, maybe they have a very different communication style or different, work preference for how to do work than what other people have. So that can potentially create some conflict if people are uncomfortable with that. But if that's handled well, it can also be a good thing and maybe initiate change for the organization. And it can certainly just affect how people are experiencing work on a day-to-day basis. So it's important to communicate openly about that and really think about how the new person is contributing to the culture of the organization. And we're going to talk about this quite a bit more over the next couple of weeks as we continue to discuss what it means to be in an organization. As I mentioned earlier, for us in Comm through 24, because we're all new, it puts us in a unique position then to really think about what are our patterns of interaction going to be? What kind of culture do we want to establish for ourselves, right? So hopefully we can do a good job and create, I see a vision of creating a culture that's very, open. We share information with each other. Everybody contributes. Everybody feels comfortable. Everybody, feels like they can contribute to the environment and share ideas, share information, and really, kind of work together this term to learn organizational communication. So as I said, what we're going to do in class is we're going to follow up on some of what I talked about today. This is just a very brief overview. So you should go through the chapter, read things in more detail, because obviously skim through it in this presentation. And then what we'll do is look at some examples of a video clip we're going to watch, and then we'll also talk about some, work through some different scenarios and examples in class just to give you a better idea of what's going on. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time too just getting to know each other and starting to establish our communication norms for the rest of the term. So remember to go on Blackboard, take the quiz for tomorrow, and I will see you in class. Everybody have a great day.